It appears that the British government is about to allow 12-year-olds to be vaccinated in schools without parental consent. There's a whole bunch of reasons as to why that might be alarming, but here's just, a handful of them. Usually, 12-year-olds aren't allowed to do all that much, right? You're not allowed to get a tattoo, you're not allowed to place a bet, you're not allowed to have a piercing in an intimate area, you're not allowed to buy or rent a film that's over the age of 12, you're not allowed to buy a pet or choose your own GP. And there's a good reason for that, of course. It's not that 12-year-olds are stupid, it's that we want to protect them and keep them the best way we can, and that's why other people make these decisions for them. I should point out that whilst not undermining the brilliance of many 12-year-olds, a quarter of 10 and 11-year-old leavers of primary school couldn't read or write properly. So at the age of 11, a quarter of children in the UK couldn't read or write properly. But at the age of 12, suddenly they can decide whether they want a state injectable and weigh up whether that would be a good thing for them. There was this thing until the world changed and no rules mattered anymore, called the Gillick competency, right? So medical professionals would assess whether a child or someone under the age of consent was Gillick competent enough to make their own decisions. And that was based on the parameters of understanding risks and benefits of whatever treatment it was that they wanted. I guess my question about vaccinations in school, giving kids the state injectable, is who is explaining the risks and the benefits to the 12-year-old? And my further question is, are they explaining the risks and the benefit of the state injectable, or are they explaining the risks of COVID to a 12-year-old? The statistical risks of COVID is that being explained to 12-year-olds in the UK? And I suppose my final thought on this, apart from pure rage, is that the reason we have to make decisions and take ownership for them is that we have to take ownership for the outcome of the decision, right? It's not the decision that's actually the thing. It's the outcome of the decision that's the problem. And I can think of loads of examples in my life. Many of you will have shared in those moments in my life. My first marriage, for example, that lasted less than a year. My decision to speak out about certain topics that's led to me being, for example, deported or banned from South Africa. My personal decisions to have some sort of energetic love life in a field that was then put across the front pages of newspapers. These are the sorts of things you have to own because you own the decision and then you own the outcome. My question would be, if something horrifically was to go wrong with a 12-year-old being given a state injectable, who owns the outcome of that decision? Because I'm feeling like it isn't going to be the child, is it? It's going to be the parent that's expected to deal with the issue. The parent, all of a sudden, is going to have responsibility. So my question to the government is, which is it? Do parents have responsibility and therefore give consent or not? Who are you expecting to clear up the mess that is surely going to happen by injecting our 12-year-olds? I used to think homeschoolers were weird. I used to think they were the sort of women who were terrified for their own kid to be even touched by a hairdresser. But the more I think about it, and the older I get, the more I realise that homeschoolers were actually leading the way. And the longer you can keep your child out of the hands of the state, the better your child is going to fare.